Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week, our hosts will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their business to success in the ever-competitive business climate.
Welcome to another Monday morning edition of Inside the Firm. Your host today is Alex Gore. I'm here with Clifton of Testfit.io. Clifton has been a guest, we know at least once, I suspect twice. I don't know why, but maybe we've just talked a couple different times. And we'll go over the background and what Testfit is and all that. But just to chat, Clifton, you just had a baby. Boy, girl? When did,
little baby girl, Savannah.
Little baby girl. And you guys can't see him, but he looks tired. I can tell you.
No, I'd say the years of trying to innovate architecture led up to me being exhausted to begin with, but baby's a physical exhaustion.
Yeah, this is a whole new level. Yeah. So I have two kids, and they still harass my nights, and I refer to them, to people in the office as my wife's friends. That's how. So my wife's friends kept me up last night.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
We'll see how bad it is. I mean, she's been doing okay. For people that don't have kids, like if they sleep, more than 3 hours, it's pretty exciting. And I think last night she slept about 5.5. So
yeah,
pretty awesome. Yeah.
But then you hear some of my friends after 3 months, their second child, they're on the same track as me, as us, slept 8 hours every night ever since the third month. And I almost wanted to choke them and be like,
well, is isn't the theory that the last trimester, we'd actually need 4 trimesters, but because our brains get so big in the womb, we got to be born before we're really ready. And so anyways, this is what our doctor was saying, was after 3 months, the babies, they change drastically. I don't know.
Yep. No, I've heard similar things. So yeah. Well, good luck on your journey.
That's great, man. I highly recommend. It just puts perspective on everything when you have a kid.
It's the best thing in the world. It's people that don't. I'm that person that is always encouraging it, probably way too much. But let's talk Testfit. And I kind of want to break this into 2 different segments for people. So first explain what Testfit is, but not all the stuff that you've added. And I know this might be hard because you've been continually on it.
Yes, we are a software company. We make more features.
Yeah. Yes. So don't mention structural MEP, all that. Okay. The beginning. What was the beginning just idea, the core thing that people were using it for?
The core problem for feasibility tools or feasibility studies in AEC and development, any kind of feasibility around buildings, is that it's inherently a math problem. And I feel like architects try to treat it like a building design problem. And mind you, the way that I constrain that what I just said is commodity buildings only, like apartments, office buildings, that kind of stuff. So we started out just basically providing a spatial math tool. You generate a thing and it draws some building bits and it gives you the idea of, how much is here. And then you can do all the math kind of on top of that. Where things have shifted is from a feasibility tool into what I'm calling a configurator. And the promise of configurator technology is that it gives users the ability to have mass customization while in a highly constrained environment. And in order to pick up efficiency and speed and things, for the design process, you need to constrain your environment, your modeling environment. So long-term, plan is configurator. Short-term plan is, we're a feasibility tool that helps solve math problems.
Yeah. And like the beginning, or what I would call the core, just from my perspective, is that you can lay out unit types, residential unit types, in an IBC compliant manner, meaning, there's stairs that can be put in, and there's distances, how far you need to be from stairs. There's elevators that you can put in. You can configure parking, and commercial. And it's a basic way to test fit, what you can. I wonder where you guys came up with that name. What you can put on a site.
Right.
And you're continually, I get the email updates, adding new features, adding more nuances, fixing bugs, or, whatever you want to call them, to build on that. And it seems like what I'm interested in too is, so all of that is like a product in itself and is useful just in itself. Because it's honestly hard. It's hard to, let's say you have 5 unit types and you got to lay out, okay, what's the most efficient, what's going to fit on here. To do that in Revit and other things is kind of difficult. So Testfit, you literally you can draw, it's like you're drawing a line, and apartments or whatever you want to call them will go on both sides and kind of fill in for you. And then you can put height parameters and width parameters.
Yeah, I think the easiest way for people familiar with BIM, the easiest way to envision this is like in Revit, you have families that are wall-based, you have families that are floor-based, you have things that are based on other things, and then you have things that are core to buildings like walls and floors. Buildings themselves are no different. Buildings can be street hosted, they can be parking garage hosted, they can be irregular shaped site hosted, and there's just nobody out there really creating like a family editor for buildings. Right. And really, I think that's where we're headed is towards configurator technology, where it's the highest level building components and how they're allocated across a plan. And the way you get to that is by allowing a constrained modeling environment where things are hosted at the next scale up. Now, if you take that thought even further up, there's cities that are hosted on things too. There's cities that are hosted on the intersection of 2 highways. There's cities that are hosted on the confluence of rivers. So there is structure built into the built environment all around us. And the goal of Testfit is to codify that into algorithms and then unleash those algorithms to the users.
Nice. I like that. You're taking some steps forward from that multiple different ways. But one I saw was structural. What are you doing there?
Yeah. So when you're in a startup, the operations is, you build a thing and you sell it, and then you get feedback from your paying customer. And before you have paying customers, you're getting feedback from prospects. But paying customer feedback has got to be, it's gold. That's the data that you need to improve your business, improve your product, improve your offering. And part of that feedback for buildings has been, this parking garage is great, but there's no columns in it, and I can't trust it because it's probably way too efficient. And so you start to see like where the cracks start to form when you start modeling everything, or modeling more than just a rectangle. You have to start modeling everything, because you have to have a highly detailed constrained environment, so that way people will trust what you're building, or what they're seeing on the screen. Mm-hmm. So taking the customer feedback for basically 2 years was, we need structural. And I had always been kind of fighting that, because I'm like, it's rectangles. You're allocating area on a plan. And it really didn't click for me until I met Rob Otani, who's CTO at Thornton Tomasetti. And we kind of kicked up a conversation in Atlanta at a conference a few years ago. And this is how important conferences are. Like you go and you create these relationships and drastically can change how you think about the built environment. And we started talking about column sizing and, what are the shortfalls or pitfalls of how generative design is done today. The constraint environments out there are not great. Oftentimes they're built on top of Dynamo, which is very slow. Grasshopper is a little bit faster, but still doesn't really embed the BIM process as much as I hoped it would. So where you end up is you have to create this whole constraint environment. Like if you want to do any kind of building design optimization in the traditional generative design sense, you have to build out an obscene amount of constraints. And just in the journey of building out Testfit, like heading towards this constraint environment that could be used to optimize buildings, our customers demanded, structural, which, if you look at your hard costs and your pro forma, Alex, for some of y'all's deals, like structural's what, 30-40% of the cost of the building.
A huge portion of it. And I mean, it's like, how far do we want to go into the weeds? Like what type of structural? Are we doing podium? Are we doing post tension? Are we doing all, that's, I don't want to derail you because I think this is going great, but like what's hard to explain to clients too is like, okay, you just want a test fit of the site and literally like sometimes not even using Testfit. But I have to understand, even if it's a small site and I'm laying out 8 to 10 townhomes, right? Those townhomes, let's say they're 18 foot wide, 20 foot wide by, 36 foot deep. When the sites are so small and they're going to spend, $1 million on the site or whatever it is. Well, if I forget that in between those townhomes, I'm going to use a system where there's 4 inches in between it, in each townhome, meaning like a 1-inch air gap, a 2-inch firewall, and a 1-inch air gap. And I go 8 inches over in my property lines, like, well, do I need to lose a unit? And then does the pro forma not work? And did I just, you know what I mean? Like, and that's probably what you hear all the time is like, and I don't know, maybe it's not complaining, but like, hey, this is great. But like, it's like, how do you do something quick, but then also think of everything at the same time? So it can,
kit of parts is the only way to do that. And what a kit of parts is typically you'll have some piece of your building that is modeled all the way to like a CD level. And so what we do is we create proxies of those CD level piece of the building. So it could be, in this case, it could be a unit. Like let's say you have a unit, you've built it 15 times already in a Denver submarket, and you want to reuse that unit. Well, that thing's already been documented. We already know what's in that unit. We already know how much linear feet of wall is in there. We know how many linear feet of cabinetry is in there. And so actually capturing those unit plans and reusing them is one of the biggest money makers that our architects, that's how they monetize Testfit. Like if I don't have to draw new unit plans, I'm going to save a lot of money. But the only way in my mind to get to that high level of detail in a short period of time is to use kit of parts, is to use already established, well-designed things and then just put them together like Legos.
Yeah. And did I derail you from your structural talk or maybe you're
look, like when I was looking at generative design stuff back in 2015, right when I graduated college, I started working for a developer and my job was to do site plans. I was drawing site plans all day, every day. And it got to the point where I needed to do something else to automate some of the most boring aspects of that, or else I was going to quit. Like I just couldn't do it anymore. And the generative design tools out there, like you could build it, like you could build Testfit inside Dynamo. You could build it inside Grasshopper. It would take an obscene amount of time. Nobody else would know how to use it. There's like no good way to track. Well, I guess you use GitHub, but there's, but then I also have to learn how to be basically a software engineer. And after going through like, it could be like a 12-month process to actually get the script where I want it to be. You're working for people that don't understand the value of creating, your own software inside these AEC firms. So long term, our goal is to do like every single script you've ever seen someone put together on Dynamo that does something good for buildings. Like that'll be in Testfit. I'm kind of sick of this is such a controversial comment, but like the people that use Dynamo to create building form, that's not what Dynamo's good at. It's good at like changing 15,000 door tags all at once. Like that's what it's good at. Mm-hmm. And by extension, like refinery is all refinery is Dynamo, just with a nonlinear optimization.
I don't even know what refinery is.
Yeah, exactly. See, like you said, no impact in people's brain space because nobody can use it.
What is it? Just another?
Yeah, it's just another
Dynamo
thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, it's Autodesk generative design tool that was like a project that then got killed and then got resurrected. And anyway, so look, what people really needed, like what this industry really needed, I think was a purpose-built generative design application. It's not an add-on. It's not some plugin, like whole company focused on really implementing this technology. Right.
Yeah. So for structural, how far have you gotten? Are you just in the parking lot or are you?
Well, it's really interesting because in the process of learning all this stuff or integrating structural, like we're not just designing one building at Testfit. Like we have to design every building for everybody all at once, right? So you have to create systems for how things should work, and it took a while to get the columns in the garage working. And right now, the next step with Thornton Tomasetti is to go to the next level. We're gonna, how do you course columns through the building? How do we adjust tributary areas? As they change across the building. We're gonna implement a setbacks at height tool probably before March. I'm hoping, where you can have a setback plane, and that's going to change how structural is done. So we're going to get to a point where like you'll have an SD level structural with the click of a button. But for now it's just in the parking garage.
Yeah. So like the concept for me and a lot of my listeners, okay, I understand Testfit as test fitting an architectural solution of unit counts and layout, but the goal, at least for that section too, is like, no, you can test fit your structural too. You can test fit your structural.
Yeah, we want to give architects tools that they have never had before. So for example, I hired Nat McDonald. He was MEP guy at Bro Happold. He's my MEP director now. He's in charge of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and kind of strategically thinking about those things. And it used to be that you'd have to go to an MEP guy and be like, all right, well, how large, do I need to make my ventilation, shafts?
Yeah, and chases and
like there'd be a coordination call just to get on the board, and that's going to be the next thing we're going to attack is how do you automatically size something for an architect in the blink of an eye, so that way they don't have to worry about an SD's MEP. Like it's going to be there, it's ready to go.
Yep. You said in a tweet. I can't wait to get rid of these inefficient split systems.
Yep.
What is it? What do you mean? At first I was like, wait, are you talking mini splits? Are you talking, what do you
yeah. All right. So in, I'm a Texas guy. I'm from Texas. Air conditioning is life. Life is air conditioning here. And much is the same for most of the Sunbelt cities here in the US. And the way that, we pay for electricity is we submeter the building, and people then can pay for their own air conditioning, whether or not they want to blast it full time or not. It's on their own, and that's why we have these split systems. So you'll have 300 condenser units on the top of your building with refrigerant lines going all the way down and back, and when you have 300 of the same system, it's always more efficient to consolidate to a larger, possibly even simpler system. And we're getting to a place, I think, in our culture where energy efficiency is actually going to be kind of a moral responsibility. And the split systems are not efficient from an energy standpoint. They are, pushing refrigerant sometimes hundreds of feet, and that's inefficient. So the end user is paying more for their air conditioning than they actually think they are.
And the line right next to it is also pushing it hundreds of feet, but it's just it's wild. And someone needs to do something about it. I don't think architects are in a place to really push for other energy or systems. Because developers, what they want to do is submeter the building. They don't want to pay for any of this electricity. It just makes the deal a lot more simple. But if we can prove inside a feasibility tool, here's the cost savings on shafts here, to actually model the deltas between these two things, then we'll hopefully have an opportunity to get maybe a more efficient energy solution. Right. Well, and too, I know there's an option for water. We couldn't split it in our development that we built. And then we had to have, but at the individual units, we could buy these smart meters. So then it just smart meters and developers could link that to, like their monthly rent or however it works. So like the technology is out there so that you could measure it at the point, not have a whole separate system for it.
Yep. And there's another thing that was really funny when I was working in development. We talked about, we had this huge roof I think it was in Phoenix, and Phoenix is like great for solar. And the solar discussion stopped when we realized that we would have to register like as a utility company to then to then allow our residents to buy the solar from us. Like it just, there's regulatory red tape around this stuff that is pretty annoying too.
Well, it's funny you say that. I was going to bring that up too. I know people in Denver that are doing the solar and becoming a utility, but it's like a lesser type of utility. It's not, as if you're XL Energy, so that they can buy all the solar and then sell it to their people too. So,
but like the solar's getting so cheap, right? It's like, it could be another line item on your NOI. And you have all this roof space, like you're basically building a surface that can be used for solar. It's like the development guys, like they could do it. They just need, we need to create a system where they can actually see, like, here's the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
They're not even having the discussion today because it's taken for granted that it's just too complicated to become a utility. And, Colorado is probably a bit more progressive in that than say Arizona would be.
Right. I think for me, in the back of my head, there's this fight against bureaucracy on like every single level, like on the corporate level, on the government level, like those two are enough. And I think what you're doing helps that, the tools that you're providing. And I know that you said it nicely, and I can't remember what you said, but like it was something, any useful, dynamo script or anything that can be helpful for a building, you want to basically codify that in Testfit to essentially give architects and or developers, the power to make those smart decisions. Yeah. Now, and then we talked about, structural, you're developing MEP further. Where in that thought process, where are you at with, or are you even going to do a code fit or a cost fit,
So yeah, we do costing, or we do quantity takeoff automatically right now. And that enables we have GCs that pay and use Testfit religiously. And they're doing conceptual modeling for, sometimes for architects. They'll ask them, okay, how much is this going to cost? And so they'll run some permutations in Testfit and figure out, here's how much it would cost. But I don't think we're ever going to get in the business of actually supplying, cost numbers, like the actual numbers for cost, because on the surface, it seems like, oh, well, there's probably just some API out there for pricing. But, when you get into the weeds when it comes to pricing, in reality, like nobody really knows how to do pricing. So really it's guys that have a great track record that can really feel the movements in the market. Those are the guys that are really great. And, it's hard to get them to tell you their secrets. Right. So we're going to do the quantity takeoff stuff, continue to do it. We'll be releasing a hard cost tool that has right now our hard costing tool, I think, has 6 buckets. The next one's going to have probably 30 or 40, like plate size and, how many elevator stops and stair stops and or flights of stairs and, just basic stuff that the GC guys want. And from a code standpoint, we try to keep the life safety stuff automated and compliant. Cause whenever when I was planning buildings and, it's really annoying to draw a perfect building and you're like, oh crap, I got to fit like 3 more stairs in here than I thought I had to do, previously. But further, IBC compliant, getting even deeper into like an FPA 13 with all the little clauses and stuff. Like I'm kind of hopeful that Upcodes is going to take the lead on that. And then we can just ping them for information. Yeah. Because, the thing, like we could build it, but if nobody's asking for it yet, so why build it?
I think you're right. That general approach, the big ones are what matters. And honestly, getting into the weeds, it's not like it's just one weed bush. It's 1,400 pages of weed bushes. Every code book that I read.
No, but when you get under the bush, like into the bush, you find out there's like a hornet's nest in there too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're like, I thought this was just weeds. No, this is hornets and fire ants too.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because they always say, like, even to this day, even them writing the codes, they still admit that there's interpretations.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, you can't even write it clear enough. We've even had, there was one, I can't remember what it was, but they had a double negative in there. And we finally took out the double negative and we said, oh, so what you meant to write was we can do this instead of it's like, it is not allowed. I don't know. It was weird as hell. It was like, oh, so we can? Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, another thing is like when you're building these algorithms, like for example, stair pressurization, that's something we've looked at several times because we do high rises. There are some jurisdictions where like they basically took that piece of the code. Like I think in Dallas, like they're just like, we don't really care about that. And they just like stripped it from the, from IBC. And then they said, oh, like we don't care about 20-foot dead ends. You can have 50-foot dead ends.
Yeah.
So like the code, while slightly objective, is not really objective because of interpretation. And then also it changes like no matter where you are. So the solution that we came up with was, okay, we're just going to create parameters that people can just plug in whatever they want for what these, what this rule is.
Yep. And good luck iCodes.
Yeah.
I like those guys too. What can people Testfit in Testfit?
So today we've got a pretty powerful road editing and modeling tool for street networks. That one is probably not marketed, but it's awesome. You don't have to like draw intersections with the little fillets and stuff. Like it's awesome. You can do angled parking dynamically. So roads, parking, surface parking, structured parking, rectangular parking, precast parking, prefab parking, any kind of parking. And we count the parking stalls automatically. So you don't have to count parking spaces. It's like the thing that drove me nuts, counting parking spaces.
Yeah.
And then you'd have people, like 3 people would count the same garage and there'd be like 480 stalls, 479 stalls, 481 stalls. And you're like,
everyone count again.
Yeah. Redo. Yeah. multifamily, high density multifamily, high rise, mid rise, low rise, anything with structured parking is pretty much handled today. The only kind of typology that we don't have something for is garden apartments, which is what we're working on right now, at least in the United States.
Did you say townhomes? Do you have townhomes?
Yeah, we got townhomes.
Row
Yep.
homes, whatever.
Yeah, row homes, townhomes. Yep. There is a parameter for gap between buildings. So while I don't want to publicly say you can do tract homes, users could on their own figure out a way to do tract homes.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying though, but could you do a neighborhood development?
Yeah.
Like single family neighborhood development.
You could. Yep.
And the roads can be curvy?
Yeah, curve roads. Yep.
Okay. Neighborhoods love to do that.
Yeah, we can talk about traffic calming and how self-driving cars is going to change how we do that. But like we have all these suburbs, all these curved roads because it slows people down. And what happens when people don't have to drive anymore? Like we are going to have with all these really stupid looking organic cities that are inefficient, all in the name of slowing people down from driving. All right. So the topic of discussion is what are we doing? So lower density housing. And then we released a IBC compliant floor plate generator for commercial buildings. It's got a bathroom configurator inside it. It generates compliant IBC bathrooms.
Is that related to occupancy? Can you place it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's driven by occupancy. Yeah. So like you can adjust how much assembly space you have, and like you can see the bathrooms like explode.
Nice.
It's really funny. Yeah. And then the staircases are also dynamic too. So you need there's X number of people per inch, and then the width of the stair starts to get wider. And you can see really quickly like why stadiums go to like the sort of like giant wide ramp model, because there's a lot of exit discharge that needs to happen. I don't know, I think that's mostly, hotels, like nobody's building hotels right now. Modular. We've seen a lot of traction, honestly, like with modular, which is funny because there's very few modular buildings going up in this country.
Yeah. It's modular is weird. Were you at the International Building Conference last year, 2020? It was right before COVID. Literally like right before it.
No, I wasn't there.
Anyways, they gave a report, modular. Everyone talks about modular. We're even talking about like architectural modulars and everything should be modular. And the economist went through the numbers and he's like, while everyone thinks that that's going to, blow up or be the future, in the past 8 years, it has not grown. It's declined in actual building products, which is crazy because you think that that's the way. And
we should ask SoftBank how they feel about the modular.
Yeah. Did they invest in whatever that firm was?
Oh, Katera. Yeah.
Yeah. And they think, just that heavy infrastructure cost of having to plant down a building, and then, so anyways, that's a side note. My last question, pricing. What is the pricing module on this? How does that work? If someone's interested.
Yeah. All right. So here's my mentality on pricing. We in 2017 we shipped Testfit. We did this. How much? Like we licked our finger, put it up in the air, and we said, "How much are we going to charge?" We picked $250.
Yep.
And so if people have bought in for using Testfit at $250 per month, SaaS company, I've never raised the price on them from that very beginning. And I hope to continue to keep rewarding firms that get in early by keeping the price, the price is low when you get in early. So about 2 years ago, we changed the price from $250 to $375. And then we learned about right? Just the per one user. But if you get more than one user, there's discounts and stuff. So it gets a little bit more, economical. Then we raised it to $375 a month. And then year, actually, we just had the discussion this morning. We're going from $375 to $475.
Gotcha.
Starting at probably the end of this month, end of January 2021. So
hopefully this. Well, nope, man. I don't know if this is going to come out in time, but as soon as you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's if you're a sole proprietor, like as an architect, and you see $475 a month and you're like, that's way too much. Like, here's my advice to you. Come talk to us about what you want to do with Testfit, because there's other ways that we want to be compensated, like stories about how you're using it, or, ideas is another thing. And really, like, I feel like we've created a community of trust. Like, we're all about privacy. Like, you keep your data. And like the other day, we had in our chat bubble, somebody was like, hey, like, I just found a typo on your website page here. Like, can you guys fix that? And I don't think that person would have cared to do that if they weren't invested in what we were doing as a company and what we're doing moving forward. So yeah, pricing is going to be continuously going up. At some point, it will stop going up because we don't need to make it go up anymore. But when you more than quadruple the tools feature set and usability and stability in under a year, and you're only increasing the price by 30%, I feel like we're still providing a significant value to architects and developers. I mean, but real-time deal prototyping, or RTDP, which is a method that we use when we work with developers. I've got 2 architects on my team now. So we do some of this real-time deal prototyping as a service. We bill $500 an hour for them to come in and just, like, we run Testfit model for them. And, they say, oh, we want, the building to be 5 stories. And then you just, like, you change the number from 3 to 5, and they're paying you to input the numbers. And that's what I'm saying is, like, architects can monetize technology in ways that they're probably not thinking about, because what they're used to is draw a site plan, scan it in, put it into InDesign, put it on the title block. Like, they're not selling an experience. They're just sending a site plan. But when you do real-time deal prototyping, you can hear what values this developer actually has in real time, what they're concerned about.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can't do it with trace paper because you can't tabulate fast enough for them to understand what is going on in the deal.
I agree 100%.
And that, honestly, like, that last segment might have been the only thing that was valuable in this whole podcast. Like, guys, you can monetize technology in ways that you could never imagine.
Yeah. I literally wrote down real-time deal prototyping. I think every listener should, and start to look into it. And if you're going to look into it, go to testfit.io. Where else to follow you, or any other, sum it up for us, Clifton.
Just add me on LinkedIn. I normally just accept everybody, even the insane salespeople that are trying to sell me stuff. And then on Twitter's got a pretty good community for AEC. It's not toxic, surprisingly, which is great, which is funny for Twitter. And then honestly, like, high power Discord might be the next sort of, like, AEC sort of collective area. But we love our friends over at High Power, and they've created a great community there. So I'm on there. Anywhere you want to meet, reach out, go for it. We've also got, several other people that work here. Nat's, MEP, so you can look them up if you want to talk MEP engineering. And then we got a former BIM track alum, Alexine Gordon Stewart. She's kind of going to be running our messaging and marketing, and she'd be another great person to reach out to.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. I thought the whole thing was valuable, but I'm biased. I'm sure we'll talk to you in a year or two. Thanks a lot.
Oh, sooner than that.
Yeah, sooner than that.